Hey YouTube, and thanks for watching Junkworks Garage. As you can see, I've already done previous stuff on the carburetor and unfortunately failed. It was just too crusty to deal with, and I really didn't want to rebuild a 2-barrel carb and put it on here anyway. So when I bought that other 289 that I found, you have to go watch that video. It's somewhere in my Mustang playlist. It had a 4-barrel manifold and a carburetor. Unfortunately, the carburetor, I think I need to do some work on it anyway. The manifold will hopefully work on here. It should. This is a 1968 302. The manifold and carb are coming off a 1966 289. But all in all, I do not believe there's any difference. Let's hope anyway. So without further ado, let's get to it. And I'm going to start by just getting stuff out of my way. The heater hoses here, I'm going to yank those off. I have actually already pulled the antifreeze out of the radiator here. I did that actually a while back. For right now, I'm just going to pull this off because all this stuff has to come off of here. I'm going to go ahead and take off the heater hoses, get them out of the way. The top heater hose goes down here to the water pump, so we'll start out by pulling that off. Whoa, I am incorrect. There's still plenty of fluid in there, so I'm going to put a pan down there. Top hose going into the firewall here, which there is no way to unhook it from the firewall area, unfortunately, but it appears that these are hooked directly to the heater core, so we'll have to deal with that later. But for right now, yet again, I'm just trying to get these out of my way. And I have a bucket down below now. I don't know how much is in the block still. I'm going to take this off as well. This goes from the distributor up over to the carburetor that is no longer there, so I'll have to figure out what my plan is for that. But for right now, I'm going to go ahead and take this off. This can come up over here for now. Trying to get it out of the way. I'm going to go ahead and pop this one off here. So there's the wire coming across here. I was just kind of looking. This goes to the fuel pump here. But this wire right here comes in and at junctions it goes this direction and down this way. That goes back behind the distributor here to some sort of a sensor. We're going to go ahead and unplug that and leave that there for now. And then it comes here and goes to the distributor off that same one that's coming back here. So it splits here again. This one goes to the sensor, this one comes up, goes to the distributor here. We'll undo that one, and unfortunately, when I was tracing how far it went, this popped up, and I don't know where it came from, and it didn't feel like it was hooked to anything. So later on, we're going to have to kind of trace that and find out what that's for. I'm sure I can find something that tells me where that goes. But for right now, yet again, that harness is going to go back here out of my way. Now we're going to go ahead and pop this off here. This other thermostat hose goes up into here and down into the water pump. So water pump hose, I would call it actually. So I guess I didn't empty out the radiator all the way. I must have just popped this top hose off for some reason, because it was all loose, and I remember pulling that off of there. And I don't exactly remember why. I was thinking it was so that I don't remember why I did what I did or what for, but there's still antifreeze in there, so I'm going to go ahead and get that all the way out. We're back here at the back of the motor, and I found something here that this wasn't even tight, but if yours is tight, it's a 7/16 line wrench to loosen that up. And quite honestly, I'm not even positive what this is. If this goes to like a some sort of a sensor or down to the transmission, some sort of, I really don't know. I'm assuming it's fluid of some sort, so like oil pressure maybe, something like that. I honestly don't know, but yet again, right now we need to get it out of the way, and I don't know where the other end of it is, so I'm going to put it there for now. This right here was hooked to the carburetor. That's your throttle pedal lever there. So now we got this right here, which activates from your carburetor somehow and does the kickdown for the transmission. We're going to have to figure out how to hook all this stuff back up in some sort of way that it actually works. I'm hoping this part especially, that there's some way on that manifold to hook it to. These are 1/2 inch, and I'm going to wrap my knuckles if I do that. Quite honestly, I'm going to stick these back in here just so I know where they came from or what they were used for later on. I'm going to take this stuff, zip tie it if I can. So now we got a bunch of 1/2 inch nuts and bolts that I got to start finding and pulling off around here. So you know, and so I know, we got these bolts that have the crisscross patterns in them. I don't know exactly what I would call them, but then we got some studs. This one, the stud came all the way out on this one here. Then we got 2 more of these, which appear to be the same length there. Then we got another stud, which this time the nut came off. And then another one of these crisscross bolts, which all appear to be the same sizes. This one has the markings, but it's gummed up. This one's a nut. 2 more that the markings. This one, the whole stud came out with the nut on top. And another one here with the markings on it. Now I'm at a point where I want to take out the distributor. I don't know if I need to do this really right now, but I'm going to go ahead and do it. I'm going to find top dead center. I got a dowel here. You got to find the number 1 piston, which is right here on Fords, or at least on small block 302 Ford of this era anyway, is a 68. And I'm just sticking this dowel down in here. So this is one of those, there's a million different ways to skin a cat. You got to make sure that thing's on top there. So it's nowhere near what I thought it was going to be. And I know this engine did run when I shut it down. That appears to be at the top of the stroke. Now, whether it's the intake or the exhaust, that I don't know. This right here, on most of the ones when I see it, is pointed that way. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it one more time and see if we end up in close to the same spot. As well as these actually turn in an opposite rotation, in reverse rotation, what I'd call it, than like Chevys and stuff. That is one of those things that I'm unfamiliar with. So now that's at the top of the stroke. That's pointing the direction I believe it needs to point in. Yet again, if it was at top dead center on a Chevy, it would be pointing the direction of the #1 cylinder on a Chevy, but I do believe this is different. So regardless, I'm going to mark this right here on the distributor so I know that's about where this needs to be. I noticed there was some tape on this, and this wire is pretty well broke, but I'm just going to go ahead and leave it on there for now. I will replace that before we get things back going. Regardless, we got to take this off of the coil here. Now remember, the one coming from the firewall, the electrical cord coming from the firewall, went on the one closest to the firewall the way this is on here, and the one coming from the distributor went on the one closest to the radiator. That's for you and me both, but if your coil's flipped around for some reason, that won't work for you. For me, I'm just going to leave the coil right where it is for now. It wouldn't surprise me if this coil will need replaced as well. It's been sitting for a while, but we'll see. Yet again, right now this is purely just me trying to get this thing to start at some point. We'll see what I need. I'm going to put as little into it as I can until I get it starting and running, or at least starting, and hopefully running decently. We'll see. Then we'll go from there on buying parts. Now we got to undo the distributor hold down here, and I got this makeshift, it looks like a homemade distributor wrench, which I tried. I can't really loosen this, so kind of stuck that in there, and hopefully, yep, we got it. Now I should be able to hopefully get it by hand here. There's just a hold down right down in here that unless you have a distributor wrench or something like this, it's going to be somewhat difficult to get to. You could get down in here and get it, really. I've seen the coils are in different places than where mine is. Although on the 289 I have and this one, they both are sitting here. I've also heard that if these have air conditioning in them, you pretty well need to have some sort of a distributor wrench to get to it. My fat fingers here. Alright, there's the bolt. And here is the little lockdown keeper thing here. And here's the other thing. On the end of this, there is the oil pump shaft that can fall out and also fall down into your oil pan, and that tends to be a bad day. Although admittedly I don't think the oil pans are that hard to get off of these. It's still one of those things that you don't want to do if you don't have to. At some point I'm going to need to change that as well, at least the gasket on it as well. But I'm going to go ahead and mark this now. Alright, I got a paint pen that'll hopefully make a better mark. There we go. And I'm just going to go ahead and mark that up as well. And I'm also going to put a mark over here on this for where this is facing as well. Just that'll get my timing. Like I said before, when I shut this thing down, it was running fine. Actually very well when I shut it down. Hopefully it will do that again. Now I'm going to actually pop this off. Maybe not. Yep, there we go. Give this just a tap. Not banging on it, just tapping on it, hoping not only to kind of knock it loose a little bit from where it's at, but also to knock that oil pump shaft down in there. Oh boy, this may be a lot more difficult than I hoped for. I have another distributor if I screw this up, or if I decide it's too far gone. But you gotta be really careful doing this. Actually hitting on that sensor back there. A little better now. Let's see if we can. Whoa. And yet again, now that it came up a little bit, knock that, hoping it will not have the pump shaft on there. I'm going to go ahead and put this back on just so it's there. Alright, nothing on the bottom of that, for now anyway. And I can actually see it down there, slightly that way, but it's alright. That smells kind of like old gas, unfortunately. I tried by hand a little bit, so now I got the pry bar here. This seems to be the common place to pry, down in this area with the pry bar. Oh, there we go. Something popped. There we go. Alright. So I wound up, instead of going up on this, I ended up pushing up between the kind of water pump area and that right there, and that popped right up. So we should be able to pull that up. But I'm seeing a lot of stuff here I'm going to vacuum out before I lift that any further. There's quite a bit of stuff just under these valve covers. And here you go. This is what I'm replacing it with. You may be wondering, well, why don't you just use that motor? Well, two reasons. This motor needs completely put together. It's all there. It's all put together, but nothing's been torqued down, tightened. All the nuts and bolts aren't completely there. There's a lot of work to get this motor, more than I was hoping to get this motor done. And the biggest thing is that even though I might be able to bolt everything all together, I wouldn't want to run it anyway, because the guy I bought it from, there's a few signs that he didn't really know what he was doing when he was taking this motor and doing stuff with it. Although I think the bottom end was all put together by somebody. It actually says Mimos Racing with phone number on it over here, and it actually is still a place, at least as of when I got this, a business that was in California. But whether or not somebody just wrote that on there, who knows. But the other thing is he said there was a bunch of sticky, greasy stuff in there, and so he pulled everything apart and wiped it out. Well, that sticky greasy stuff, I'm assuming, was the assembly lube that needs to be in there before you start anything. So I think I'm going to have to take this whole thing apart and re-lube everything up and make sure all the tolerances are right. Check everything over, just because I think he pulled this thing apart, cleaned everything up, put it back together, and then got tired of the project. There's the little story background behind why I'm not using this, for all those that are going to comment. It will get used at some point, but not on this car actually. Well, it may. Once I get this one running, and then I'll start working on this. And if I can get this one all put together nicely, I'll probably rip it out, put this one in here, rip that one out and rebuild it and put back in here. But that's for way down the road, if it ever happens. The next thing, this is the manifold, intake manifold I am going to put on it. I don't know what it is. It is a cheap knockoff of something, which also is another thing about this, is I want to check all the parts and pieces that are on here, because if this is a cheap knockoff of something, I don't know what other cheap knockoff parts are in this motor. So I want to check that out before I go putting it all together and burning it down. So regardless, this should work fine, at least better than what is in there right now, the stock one. Will it work as good as an Edelbrock something or another? No. It did come with stainless steel bolts though, which makes me happy. I'm going to attempt to pull this big Loma Jamma off here. It's heavy, Doc. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you're too young to know what I'm talking about. Alright, we'll get a closer look here. It's fairly clean down in there. It's dark. I don't see any bad things that shouldn't be in there, or a whole lot of crusty crud, other than a few things that drop down in here that I'm going to have to vacuum back up. It doesn't look too bad. Well, I'm already realizing I'm in editing this video right now, and most of you have probably left because it's going on quite a while. So in that case, we got the manifold off. We are going to put the manifold back on in a different video. So go check out that video if you want to see the manifold I showed you put back on here, and what I'm going to do to clean up things and all that kind of stuff. So hopefully you enjoyed this. Hopefully you got something out of this. Thanks for watching Junkworks Garage, where I'm proud to say I'm a jack of all and master of none. You all have a good one.